Hello and welcome to Northwest Newsweek. A CN freight train went off the tracks in the town of Emo on Tuesday morning. Fortunately, no one was hurt in the derailment and no dangerous goods were involved. The OPP reported that 14 cars derailed at around 7:30 in the morning. At least 7 of the cars came completely off the tracks and some of them tipped over. A railway spokesperson said all the derailed cars were transporting potash. CN crews and emergency responders were all dispatched to the scene, and some of the rail crossings were closed for a short time. The cause of the mishap is under investigation. In recent years, Rainy River officials have expressed concerns about safety because of a number of derailments in that area, including one in 2020 that saw a major spill by tanker cars carrying crude oil through Emo. Kenora City Council has directed its administration to take another look at the city's 2025 budget. The current budget draft sees a 9.33% increase to the tax levy. Justin Hardy has the story.
Anything that can be done would be appreciated to help bring this down.
Kenora Council heard the draft budget at a special meeting on Monday. The nearly 10% increase to the tax levy had many on council concerned, according to Mayor Andrew Poirier. He says the city will need to take a hard look at ways to lower that number.
We pay taxes also, and I've always thought that we should do as fulsome a job as possible to make sure that we're looking at all aspects of the budget and bringing in the least increase of taxes that we can.
Throughout the meeting, council explored potential ways of reducing the tax increase. One suggestion was to increase the dividend paid back to the city through the Prosperity Fund, which Poirier assures will not affect the cost of maintaining that fund.
We're not talking about taking money, principal amount money out of the fund. It's just we feel because of inflation and everything that dividend should increase. So it's a revenue side. It's got it has nothing to do with tax increases or anything.
Poirier says he feels like the meeting was a great start at getting the tax increase down to a much more manageable level for the city's taxpayers.
Today we were able to add revenue without raising taxes to the overall city budget, which reduced our tax rate. So right now we're in like 7.85 or 7.9, so we've come down from 9.33.
Administration is expected to bring the next draft of the budget to council before the end of February. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
Nearly 2 years after a fatal highway crash just west of Ignace, OPP have now laid criminal charges against the driver of a transport involved in the collision. The victim was a 75-year-old Ignace resident. He was operating a snowplow on Highway 17 on March 17, 2023, when his vehicle collided head-on with a tractor-trailer. OPP announced the result of their investigation this week. The transport driver, 42-year-old Sukhdeep Saran from Calgary, has been charged with criminal negligence causing death. The accused is scheduled to appear in court in Dryden on March 3rd. The Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association has released an analysis of the region's electrical needs. Due to the expected growth in the mining industry, the Northwest Energy Task Force found the existing and proposed transmission system will be unable to meet the demands of future mining infrastructure. Jaden Billick reports.
Northwestern Ontario is often described as the most significant mining area in the province. With 12 operational mines between Wawa and Rainy River, and to the north, there's another 41 mining projects in the planning stages. Officials with the Northwest Energy Task Force say our region currently generates a base load of 484 megawatts. And Group Co-Chair Ian Angus says we'll need an additional 250 megawatts distributed throughout the region.
If we invest in the transmission lines now, they will be there for the mines when they're ready, and that'll be an incentive for the mines to actually happen. Reality is, and we saw this with Greenstone Gold, they couldn't get a solution from the Ontario government in terms of bringing new power into Geraldton, so they're operating natural gas generators behind the fence.
The task force is calling for new hydro, biomass, and wind projects to bridge the gap and reduce reliance on fossil fuels. And should all of the planned mines connect to the grid by 2033, the power requirement in our region will rise to 1,968 megawatts. Angus says an option that makes sense now would be to develop a number of new biomass generation facilities as soon as possible through locations like existing and dormant sawmills.
For biomass, it's 2.5 years, which is quite reasonable. Transmission, on the other hand, takes about 7 years when you go through all the regulatory process and route selection, environmental assessment, things like that. So if you don't start now, you're not going to meet the deadline. Right now, they would produce about 40 megawatts per generator.
Potential new sources of power include the proposed Little Jackfish hydroelectric generator, an increase to the output of the Atikokan generating station, and Thunder Bay pulp and paper mill through power purchase agreements. For now, the next steps for the task force are to seek out meetings with the IESO and Hydro One while waiting for the next Minister of Energy. Jaden Billick, TBT News.
An Australian mining company is hoping to push the Northwest to the forefront of Ontario's lithium production and processing. Green Technology Metals has a number of projects that aim to start over the next few years in the region, including a processing plant in Thunder Bay. Justin Hardy reports.
Green Technology Metals is aiming for its Seymour lithium project north of Armstrong to be up and running by 2026. As long as all goes according to plan, construction could start this spring. The mine project could bring more than 150 jobs during construction and 100 to 120 jobs for roughly 7 years during the mine's operation. Cameron Henry, managing director of Green Technology Metals, says they expect to pull 150 to 180,000 tons of concentrate from the site per year.
The first few years that will be most likely exported to our Korean partners' facility in Korea to be processed further into lithium chemical. But we also have a plan to develop a chemical facility in Thunder Bay. So certainly for the first sort of 3 to 4 years of production of that facility, the Seymour project is expected to provide feedstock for that chemical facility.
Green Tech was originally looking at the former Cascades Mill site on Shipyard Road in Thunder Bay as the location for their lithium processing facility. But the company has recently announced that a letter of intent has been signed for exclusive access to the Mid-Continent Terminal on Maureen Street for 24 months, with an option to lease, which will enable the company to perform due diligence for the conversion facility project to be advanced. Henry says that project could mean more than 500 construction jobs and 150 to 200 positions for 15 to 20 years while the plant is operational.
They are long life facilities. They're extremely important in the global change to support electric vehicles, which Ontario is a huge part of at the moment. So it certainly will bring a lot of jobs and additional funding into the region. Thunder Bay's got a great opportunity here to be at the forefront of lithium production in northwestern Ontario, and we're certainly keen to push that.
Green Technology also has a second project in the region, the Root project near Slate Falls, which the company says holds significant potential. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
The fired police chief of the Anishinaabe-Aski Police Service has filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against the force, alleging wrongful dismissal and breach of contract. Roland Morrison was appointed NAP's chief in April of 2019. The board for NAP suspended him in March of last year amid allegations of misconduct. An internal investigation was concluded about 6 months later, and Morrison's termination was announced in November. The statement of claim was filed by Morrison's lawyers in early January. The lawsuit seeks $1.8 million in the lost salary, along with lost benefits and pension contributions. It also calls for NAPS to pay another $700,000 in personal, moral, and punitive damages. The NAPS board issued a media release this week saying it plans to fully defend itself against the claims. None of the allegations have been proven in court. An annual event aimed at helping First Nation home builders expand their networks and see the latest innovations was held this week in Thunder Bay. The 22nd annual First Nation Housing Conference featured workshops, training sessions, a trade show, and a Youth Builders Challenge. Jessa Clement reports.
Around 300 delegates from across the country will be at the Valhalla Hotel for this 3-day event to share ideas about First Nations housing needs and to learn about the latest housing innovations for remote areas.
Our theme this year is exploring challenges and empowering sustainability. So we're looking to see housing programs last long into the future.
Spokesperson Clarence Meekus says the 22nd annual First Nations Housing Conference has a little something for everyone, whether it be workshops, a trade show, or the popular building competition. He emphasizes the importance of hosting the event every year.
Housing, the needs never go away, no matter what government may be in power and what opportunities there are. At the end of the day, we still hear about issues with quality housing. We hear about issues with overcrowding, issues with funding availability. So our goal is to empower communities, empower community members, community builders to take on their own opportunities and manage their own projects.
Day one of the conference saw a number of sessions throughout the day, focusing on a wide variety of topics, including fire safety for Indigenous housing, presented by fire safety educator Shane Ferguson. Attendees learned about community fire safety and the importance of ongoing education and training.
I specialize in rescue, and that's part of what's important to know how to get out of the house quickly and safely, because we know when I had to get people out, they didn't know what to do. In the northern communities, over 90% of the communities don't have a fire department, and a lot of them, 90% or more, don't have working smoke alarms in their homes. And the idea is to get that information out and to get the proper training for that.
The conference continued Wednesday with a trade show and, for the first time ever, a Youth Builders Challenge. Jessica Clement, TVT News.
When we return, we'll have more on that Builders Challenge competition coming up after this short break.
You know, we need our housing to be sustainable, the programs, the houses themselves, to last decades into the future.
Welcome back. The 22nd Annual First Nation Housing Conference hosted their popular Builders Challenge on Wednesday to empower youth to exploring housing innovations through hands-on projects. The competition highlights the importance of investing in future leaders to build a more resilient housing system for future generations. Jaden Billick has the story.
The event, held in the Valhalla Hotel and hosted by home improvement expert Jan Eeks, aimed to equip youth from remote communities with the skills to improve housing in their First Nations. Eeks emphasized the importance of recognizing mold, replacing subfloors, and mastering essential repairs to ensure homes last for years to come.
If you get something early enough, it can be done by maybe not the person in the house, but a friend, or a group of friends, or maybe a gang of kids. that can take some pride in doing this thing. And every time they get involved in a project like that, there's a notch of self-pride.
Following a brief but detailed demonstration, 20 minutes was added to the clock, and the student teams got right to work deconstructing the flooring to identify the mold, remove it and poison it, and then reconstruct it back to its original form. Officials say these activities perfectly resemble this year's theme of exploring challenges and empowering sustainability.
We know there's always gaps in housing that will never go to style. There's always challenges for communities in, providing healthy housing and housing that meets our needs in the communities. And then, we need our housing to be sustainable. The programs, the houses themselves, to last decades into the future.
First place winner Dano Moose from Poplar Hill First Nation and his teammate took home a tool belt and a hammer as a first prize. He says even though he's already developed 10 years worth of practice in carpentry, he still continues to learn new tricks every single day.
Well, I've been coming here for I don't know how long now, but it's my second win.
Second win?
Yeah, second win. I won 2 years ago, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We see a lot of mold back home, yeah. So I'm trying to learn everything about mold in there.
Officials say this event is meant to inspire youth to explore careers in housing and construction and gain some of the basic knowledge to take care of their own housing in the future. Jaden Billick, TBT News.
Ontario Provincial Police say mechanical issues are what caused a small plane to make an emergency landing on Highway 11 north of Nipigon last Friday evening. Nipigon OPP were called to the scene shortly after 5 p.m. on January 31st. The pilot wasn't injured and only minor damage was done to the aircraft. The Transportation Safety Board was notified of the crash. The highway was closed for about 2 hours until the plane was safely moved off the road. OPP continue to investigate. Anyone with information about the incident is asked to contact police or Crime Stoppers. The region's forest industries are still bracing for potential U.S. tariffs, especially with certain products having already duties close to 15%. The head of the Ontario Forest Industries Association says Donald Trump's planned tariffs could be devastating, as more than 97% of products made from Ontario logs are exported south of the border. Vasilios Bellos reports.
Although the 25% U.S. tariffs on Canada have been delayed for 1 month, Ontario's forestry industry isn't breathing a sigh of relief.
It's going to be impossible to replace the importance of that marketplace.
Ontario Forest Industries President Ian Dunn says the tariffs would be devastating, as more than 97% of forest products from the province are exported to the United States. Currently, softwood lumber is already subject to a 14.5% duty, which could jump to 35% later this year. Dunn says the proposed U.S. tariffs would just be added on top of these.
Across the board, 25% tariff, which would be in addition to, not replace, but in addition to the softwood lumber duties. That means the pulp and paper sector would be impacted. The panel sector would be impacted. Getting equipment across the border, both from the U.S. into Canada and Canada into the U.S.
There have already been challenges for the industry in the Northwest, with layoffs and most significantly the idling of the Terrace Bay pulp mill. That put 400 people out of a job. Dunn says these struggles are unfortunately being seen across the province, with the past week only exacerbating these challenges.
In a lot of respects, the damage has already been done. If you're a multinational company looking to invest your dollars, you're going to sense a lot of uncertainty in the marketplace right now. You would lose a lot of confidence in the Canadian-U.S. Relationship.
When asked which operations in the region would be hurt more by the tariffs, the sawmills or the pulp mills, Dunn says it's hard to say at this point which type of mill would be impacted the most. Vasilios Bellos, TBT News.
Federal Minister Patty Hajdu says Donald Trump's tariff threat is unfair to Canadians, and she's encouraging residents to band together and buy local goods. Thunder Bay Mayor Ken Boshkoff and other border city leaders are also hoping for a swift and fair resolution to the trade dispute. Jessica Clement reports.
I think Canadians are quite surprised and really hurt, actually, by the actions of President Trump.
Thunder Bay Superior North MP Patty Haidu says the 25% tariffs, which are now on hold for at least 30 days, would be unfair to Canadians. She notes that if they are put in place, the economic impact will be felt all over the country, including in Indigenous communities.
A viable part of the economic fabric in Northern Ontario. We have many Indigenous owned small and medium sized businesses, and we have many Indigenous employees in all of our businesses and across the region. We are for sure feeling Indigenous voices as part of the Team Canada response. And again, this is a time for all Canadians to pull together.
Haidu notes the desire from constituents to buy local Canadian goods can be seen now more than ever.
People are united. They want to stand up for their country. They want to stand up for the sovereignty of their country. They're seeing the challenges that a populist approach to politics is presenting across the border.
Mayor Ken Boshkoff, alongside other leaders from border communities, says he's hoping for a swift resolution to the trade dispute. He says the communities who are part of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities initiative understand how important the relationship between the two countries is.
Both of us need each other to be friends and to trade fairly and equally, which has essentially been happening for literally decades. I'm hoping that cooler heads will prevail and that people will make some sense of the fact that when you're friends and allies and you have basically the world's longest and safest border, you really don't want to jeopardize that kind of relationship.
Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Coming up, Ontario Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie makes a campaign stop in the Northwest ahead of the upcoming provincial election.
We're going to open up more spaces here at Nelson at Lakehead University to ensure we can get more medical students here.
Welcome back. It's the first visit to the region by a party leader during this provincial election campaign. Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie was at Confederation College on Friday alongside a pair of local candidates. She announced a major part of her campaign platform, pledging that everyone in Ontario will have a family doctor within 4 years. Jessica Clement reports.
Do you know that there are 28,000 people here in the Thunder Bay area that don't have access to a family doctor? That's absurd, and that has to change.
Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie made improving health care a main focus of her visit to Thunder Bay. She was at Confederation College Friday morning with local Liberal candidates Stephen Marguerite and Brian Hamilton, touring the school's health facilities and speaking with local nursing students. Crombie says there's an urgent need to recruit and retain doctors in the north and pledged that everyone in the province will have a family doctor within 4 years.
We're going to open up more spaces here at Nossum at Lakehead University to ensure we can get more medical students here. And we're going to bring more foreign-trained doctors through the program and we'll increase residency spaces and get them through the mentorship program called the Practice Ready Ontario.
Crombie noted that people in Northern Ontario have unique needs and reiterated a promise she made to party supporters on Thursday night, which was free medical school for students who commit to working in the north.
We're going to iron out all those details in the months to come, but we'll look at which communities are underserved, and those will be the communities where there will be those multi-year service agreement in exchange for that tuition.
Crombie also commented on the closure of safe consumption sites in Ontario.
Of course, they have to be located in the right locations. We don't want them near our schools or daycare centers or sensitive use, but we have to follow the science, follow the data, and follow the evidence. And if they are making an impact on people's lives, then of course they should stay open.
Jessica Clement, TBT News.
The Green Party of Ontario has confirmed their candidates in the 2 Thunder Bay area ridings for the provincial election coming up on February 27th. Atikokan resident Eric Arner will represent the Greens for the second straight election in Thunder Bay, Atikokan. Arner finished 4th in the 2022 Ontario election, collecting 781 votes. Meanwhile, in Thunder Bay, Superior North John Northey will carry the Green Party banner. Northey ran for the Greens in 2014 and 2018 provincial elections, finishing 4th both times with just under 1,000 votes. That's all we have for this edition of Northwest Newsweek. Hope to